Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream. My name is Matt Bailey. I'm the National Ambassador for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society here in Australia, and it's Monday, 7:30, October the 19th, if you want to get really specific, 2020. And it's still October, but I've got an opportunity now to talk tonight a little bit about upcoming Malt of the Month. I've delved a little bit into this distillery, and I think it's a really fascinating one in that it's not a very fascinating distillery. Now, hear me out on this, hear me out. I think it's fascinating in their output and some of their story. Not so much fascinating in that it is not a superstar distillery. Now, before I delve right into it, I just want to say that our next outturn, now the outturn is our monthly publication that covers all the single casks that we release every month. We release, on average, 12 to 20 new single cask allocations every single month. It's just insane amounts of good whiskey coming out. And in that is our Malt of the Month. However, for November and December, sorry, my levels are a little bit out. For our November and December issue, there we go. It's a double issue. So it's two issues in one. That gives us and our brain space a bit of time in December to prepare for next year rather than worry about an individual outturn. But at the same time, it gives us an opportunity to do a massive bumper outturn that covers you for all your festive dramming needs. So this year, it falls on Friday the 13th. No superstition, please. Friday the 13th of November. So there we go. Good morning from Gothenburg. Hey, good to see you. Could outturn get any bigger? I think it's about to. James Finnegan says, hello. Good to see you, James. And Alex is cooking dinner. Alex, I'd love to know what you're cooking for dinner. Okay. And whiskey is my jam. Raise a glass to you as well, sir. Okay. So it's two issues. It's a double issue. It's a November, December issue of an outturn coming on Friday the 13th. Really exciting. But you've got to realize that's still a good 3 and a bit weeks away. 3.8 weeks away or something like that from today. So this is still a fair bit of time to go, but I wanted to delve into this kind of a little bit early now so that you can have a bit of time to assess, to look through it all, and to have a bit of a sneaky preview of what's to come. Because it's two issues of outturn, it means that there's 2 months to cover. That means there's 2 Malt of the Months. I have both of them right here on my desk in front of me, which is really exciting. The second one, you might be able to tell from your camera there, one of them is peated, one of them is spicy and sweet in the flavor profile colors. We've got a purple one here and a light green one here. So we've got a spicy and sweet and a lightly peated whiskeys for the festive outturn. I'm talking tonight exclusively about the spicy and sweet one, so I'm not going to reveal even what that lightly peated one is yet. How much of a tease is that? Very sorry. Already worked out one of the Malt of the Month releases. Yes, well, this is what I'm going to talk about tonight. So you've only beat me by about an hour or so. So there we go. I've got some very cunning members who are able to find out things very, they've got ways of finding things out. I think just by searching tasting notes and and navigating what we might be releasing. I also want to say a big congratulations to everyone who won the Name This Cask. If you were at the gathering in Sydney or Canberra, you would have tasted it already. But if you didn't, then you were selected. You may have been selected today. So congratulations to the 30-odd people that were selected to name this cask. We'll be sending a sample out to you. Probably tomorrow's mail. But keep an eye out. Hopefully we'll get it to you by the end of the week because we'll need those submissions soon. Spoil sport. You're a trickster. I am a trickster. Yes, it's true. I have a few surprises up my sleeve still. And you'll have to do 2 festive cocktails with the Malt of the Months. It's about time you made cocktails on live again. I can't see who wrote that comment. You've got to authorize your comments via StreamYard or something. It doesn't matter. But I will tell you that, yes, I should probably do another cocktail video. That last one I did was a few months ago now, which was all about cocktails at home and using the best ingredients to make the best cocktails. And people enjoyed what I made. And also some people who are actual professional bartenders got to watch it and poke fun at me for how bad it actually was, which was also fun. It's part of the Whiskey and Helmet tasting pack. Well, there you go. Look, that is a bit of a giveaway. And looking forward to the Name is Cask sample. If you won that sample, congratulations. So there we go. I'm going to pour a dram of this. This is 80.14. Now, I know that some of you already picked it out already. I put this photo up earlier just today showing, hey, what's there? What's going on here? I obscured the cask number, the one of something number, but I didn't obscure the tasting note or the distilled date. It was only a few hours early. That is, of course, this is not what it looks like. It looks more like this. And I'm holding it in my hand here, a maple syrup Mountain Spring. Better hold it up so you can see it. Maple syrup Mountain Spring. If you were at Andrew's Tour of Speyside event in Sydney last month, you would have had an opportunity to taste this. So I'm going to give myself an opportunity now as well. The first thing, before I even pour it, I was amazed on the night how accurate the name was to the actual whiskey. Now, that's not saying that, it always is. Sometimes I see the name of a society cask and I'll see so many colors in a rainbow and I'll go, yeah, I mean, it's a very waxy, lovely rainbow kind of whiskey, maybe. I don't know what that means. I mean, sometimes it's evocative to time and place. Sometimes it's meant to be something else. In this case, when I saw maple syrup Mountain Spring, a maple syrup Mountain Spring, I was immediately like, there is actual maple syrup note in this whiskey, and I don't know where that comes from. Well, obviously comes from the wood and the spirit, but I want to talk a little bit about that as well, a little bit tonight. I'm going to pour a dram of that. Don't need a biggie, but just a little one. It's only Monday after all. 59.5%, a first fill ex-bourbon hogshead. That's a little bit uncommon in itself, seeing a first fill ex-bourbon hogshead. You see lots of refill hoggies. That's obviously the course of hogsheads are often refill. You see a lot of first fill bourbon barrels, but hogsheads mean that it's a little bit bigger than a barrel. It's 245 liters instead of our usual 200-ish liters on an ASB and an American Standard barrel. It's Rob A. Rob Akers. Good to see you, Rob. Yeah, I don't know. Something happened with us. I had to reconnect Facebook through StreamYard, so maybe your permissions for a lot of people have been screwed up there. Hell to the yes, says Jesse Morgan. Good to hear, Jesse. I'm glad you're excited by this. I'm very excited for it as well. So Dr. Akers and my StreamYard credentials must be expired as we are now both Facebook user. You are both Facebook user. I'm sorry. For some reason, StreamYard forgot our credentials, so I had to reconnect StreamYard to our Facebook account, which means that maybe credentials have all reset. I don't know. I'm very sorry. Darren Howie says, evening. Ali says, raise a dram. There we go. And we've been cancelled. No. So immediately, the first thing I noticed when I look at this is it is actually got quite a darker hue than I was expecting for a young whiskey. It is an 8-year-old whiskey. That's not too young, but it's youngish. It's got an immediately darker hue to it. And I just can't get over that maple note that just sitting on the top there. Fresh Canadian maple on vanilla ice cream note straight away. But so delightful, and definitely that spicy and sweet, even on the nose, is very much in the appropriate flavor profile, I would say. Jesse, like I said, very excited that you're excited for this one because it's an exciting whiskey. It is. It's a single cask strength, 59.5%, 8-year-old in the spicy and sweet flavor profile, Distillery 80 cask.14. What does that tell me? That tells me that it's about midway through the coding system for us, Distillery 80. So that's Distillery 80, and this is the 14th cask ever passed by the panel. 14th cask ever to pass the panel. Now, in nearly 40 years of the society existing, that's very few casks out of this distillery. It may have been a case of supply. It may have been a case of they didn't pass panel. I don't know. We may have been offered up 15. We may have been offered up 14. We may have been offered up 140. I don't know. But all I know is that the panel have only passed 14 of these casks to be good enough to be society bottlings. Very good, very good. Remind me, Matt, what does the color tell us? Nothing. No, I'm one of those people that says color doesn't really tell you anything about a whiskey. It doesn't tell you about the story. It doesn't tell you about the flavor. I had tasted a whiskey recently. I won't name it. It wasn't very good, and it was very, very dark in color. And I went into it, and it's like it said natural color on the bottle. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. Like all society whiskeys, all natural color, and you go natural color, great. It was 46.5% or something like that, 46%, somewhere around there. It's like, okay, respectable proof. And you taste it. Yeah, and I said to a colleague of mine, I said it was dark in color only and not in flavor. And there was almost no influence of that color that it imparted from the cask, which is, there we go. Jesse says, I'm mostly just eager to pour this all over my pancakes in the morning. You know what? This one would go very well with some Christmas pancakes. I'd say coming up next month after next. December's going to be here before you know it. You know what? It's just going to be, suddenly it's Christmas. Isn't that exciting? It's such a nice part of this. And you know what? I think we all deserve a nice Christmas this year. It's been it's been a rough year for everyone. And we touched a bit on this in Out Term, but I won't go into that just right now. So there we have the rather look. There's not many photos of this distillery. There's no official tour of the distillery. I personally have not visited this distillery. I've driven past it. I've visited distilleries on either side of it. There's Glenrothes. There's Glen Grant, just around the corner. So it's in the Rothes region. This distillery, Distillery 80. And there you go. So I'm going to show you just a couple of photos of it here. No, it's nothing too exciting to show you, really. It's just these are what photos of a proper workhorse distillery looks like. But it is worth mentioning that this distillery does not have a core range. Now, before one of you says, you're forgetting Flora and Fauna. Yes, they do have a Flora and Fauna release. I think it's a 10 or a 12-year-old in the Flora and Fauna range. A lot of their spirit goes into what we know as J&B, Justerini and Brooks, their blend. If you've seen those blends called J&B blend, a lot of it goes into that. Rhymes with Glen Way. I'll take it. There you go, Lachlan. Rhymes with Glen Way. It doesn't have a lot of instant sort of, there's no cult-like status, this distillery. They don't have a core range that is to get excited by. Every so often you see something like an old cask of it in the sort of Diageo special releases or something like that for some absurd amount of money. And I don't know how if I'm being completely honest, I don't know how you can justify it, because it's kind of like, it's hard to really get into a distillery where your only point of entry is some $2,500 bottle of unknown sort of quality, if you like. Was this whiskey one of the ones you tried last week and posted photos of last weekend? No, I did not try this last weekend. No. Oh, no, and not that one I was talking about either. No, not the one I was talking about before, James. No, this is something I tried last month that it was just very, very underwhelming. I'll tell you in a message later. No, I can't. I probably shouldn't. Anyway, and I already said that one. So there, solid workhorse distillery. It's true. If you look at the photos of it, I'll bring it back up here so we can see them. It's the photos sort of tell much more of a story than I can really about this distillery. You can tell it's definitely, the photo of the safe the only photo of the spirit safe that I could find. You can see some workman's jacket and maybe a lunchbox or something beneath the number 2 safe there. It's definitely just it's a very rugged distillery setup. There we go. Look at that old school gear. It doesn't need upgrading because there's no show and tell here. It's very much an old wiring board that controls it. But the thing I want to show you about this photo here is that you can just take careful note of the angle and shape of the line arm. So here's the still. These are the stills here at the base, of course. These are the stills. And then this cylindrical tube here that connects it, that's the line arm. So I want to talk about the line arm with this distillery in particular for a moment, if I may, only because I find it interesting at the very least. So the line arm, links the head of the still to the condensing system at that distillery. So most commonly, it'll be a shell and tube construction, which is most distilleries, but sometimes a more traditional worm tub setup. Now, we've talked about worm tubs a little bit before. Distilleries like Balmain, Mortlach, Dalwhinnie, things like that, that have a different sort of spirit character by using a different condensing process off the line arm. So that it's basically a stage of refinement for the spirit and will shape the desired output and style of a spirit. In the true Scottish fashion, you find that distilleries often will move and adapt and change things in a distillery to get to that desired spirit character off the still. So let's have a look at the 3 main things here. Let me just go back to that photo for a second here. We've got fairly straight-ish line arms, as in like they come up and they go horizontal across there. it's hard to see. It's hard to see what sort of from that angle. Maybe that photo doesn't really do it justice. There's more photos coming up though. Here we go. So yeah, I was going to say with that. So there's you've got three angles. Obviously, you've got sort of wrong way. You've got three angles. You've got horizontal, you've got upward, and you've got downward facing. You see all three. I mean, I'd argue that downward facing, somewhat downward, or even horizontal and downward, pardon me, are the most common, but you do see upward facing ones from time to time. Now, so with the steeper upward angle style, more reflux is created off the line arm. So the spirit vapors that condense on the inside of the pipe will trickle back down into the body of the still again. Now, this helps create a lighter spirit. This distillery, this lovely 80.14, is quite a light style of spirit, and most of the casks we've had out of this distillery have been in the light and delicate flavor profile, very fairly so. Does anyone here remember 80.10? I think was the last one we had, Champagne and Roses. Fantastic bottling. It was one I really kicked myself for not getting because I saw it light and delicate. You think, maybe that's not the style of whiskey I was looking for at the time. And I often, if I'm being honest, even I overlook the light and delicates because it's like, well, what do I need that for? I want my bigger whiskeys. I want my big sherried whiskeys and the big peats. And you miss the light and delicates and you miss the spicy and sweets and juicy oak and vanillas at your own peril because they are often that. Whereas, some whiskeys I call rock and roll whiskeys, the deep, rich and dried fruits and the oily and coastals and the peated and heavily peated, they're rock and roll whiskeys. This is what I would call light and delicate, spicy and sweet, juicy oak and vanilla. That profile, I would call the symphonic whiskeys, the ones that have so much nuance and so much going on across the whole orchestra that isn't just a Metallica whiskey or whichever rock and roll band you want to use. Rock and roll band. How old am I? Anyway, so if you have an upward facing line arm, the more reflux is created and goes back into the body of the still, creating a lighter style of spirit. So that's the easy part of it all though. But a lot of distilleries, even with upward facing, have had heavier spirit styles. Again, there's different factors that go into this that I don't want to go into too much at the moment. But if you look at some distilleries like Distillery 80, I'm not going to say the name. I'm going to go as best as I can without saying the name of Distillery 80. But if you look at distilleries like Altavan, like Glencadam, like Glenkeith, they've all got very light spirit style that works well in a multitude of different ways, but it's very much a light spirit style, which is a result of that. So let's just talk about why that happens as well. Over time, fashions change. Fashion changes in general, but fashion in whiskey changes. And the way and the type of spirit that particularly for the longest time blenders have wanted, those are the kind of styles that the distilleries will change towards and build even entire distilleries in this case to build towards creating for that style. So it's when these light and delicate flavor profiles were more desirable, especially from the late 1800s for blenders, even for the longest time after that, where adding something like a simple little purifier pipe in the case of Distillery 80 changes the spirit entirely and makes a lighter, more delicate spirit. It's again, ignore it at your own peril because it's unbelievable stuff. Now, if we'd have a look at Distillery I'm going to bring up the photo of it. Look, there's a bit more up close. I'll bring that up on the screen for us all to see here. You can see the pipes. You can see they call it a bucket, but there's different ways of creating and shaping that spirit character. There's the still room at Tormore. You can see the purifier pipes here. You can see a bit of action there. I'm going to bring that up. So next time, have a look at, and here you go, very much straight line arms on this one as well. Maybe even slightly downward facing. You definitely get some reflux off that, which means that distillery Tormore will get kind of light spirit quality on that one as well. There's the rather wacky still room at Glen Grant, which is just around the corner from Glen 80, I'm going to say. Almost said it. Come on. But next time you're at one of these distilleries, you're going to be examining these line arms and the spirit quality and influence it has on the spirit. It's well worth talking to distillers about this stuff. It is very interesting. And so you can see they've got 8 stills at this place. They're huge. And you can see here, the line arms have a noticeable downward incline in this case. But instead of heading straight to the condensers, they're directed into small copper drums purifiers. So there they are. It's really hard to show it in this photo. I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up a little bit closer. You can see these drums here that they're funneled into, which So and what they're cooling. So what those purifiers do, just like at Distillery 80, they're cooling devices designed to try to persuade some of the heavier compounds to condense and return to the body of the still. So there you go. So what would happen here is that a spirit that was going to be potentially quite heavy is now quite light, and it's changed. And that's why Glen Grant has quite a light spirit quality. If you've tasted their core range, you can get a really good instance of that. And if you try even like society expressions of these distilleries, you get a much more obviously potent version of that. But still, I say still, get it? Still, I make myself laugh. So let's have a look at this. Here we go. I can't get over the maple note, and I mean true maple whiskey over ice cream, over vanilla ice cream, or as someone said, over pancakes. Speaking of which, I'm going to just grab some of these comments. Jesse says, just a brief aside, how do you usually notify members when they win competitions, such as Name the Cask one that closed today? Jesse, we notify them via email if they've won. If you didn't win a sample, we don't send you anything. We don't say, sorry, you didn't win. We just say, it didn't happen. So, and then I announced it in our Facebook group. If you're not a member of our group, just go to social media, go to Facebook and look up Scotch Malt Whisky Society Australia. There's a group. It's about 3,000 members in there. It's fantastic. Light spirit style with a worm tub sounds very interesting. It does sound very interesting, doesn't it? Next time at one of these distilleries, roll eyes. Yeah, no, Lachlan, it's right. I mean, we're all sort of stuck in the same boat at the moment. Where was I? So yeah, the Distillery 80, was built in 1878 in the Rothas region. It was actually called Mill of Rothas when it was first built, and was built in the same year as its neighbour Glen Rothas. And it was built by James Stewart, who at the time was the licensee from Macallan. So they changed the name about 10 years later, and then they changed the name in the same year that licensee Stewart bought Macallan. So there was all sorts of changes happening in the late 1800s there, 1880s, 1890s. This is a boom time for Scotch whisky in many ways. And ever since then, they've been producing whiskey on and off, of course, with different wars and famines and whatnot. Not famines, wars though. Different times over the 1900s that they would have had periods of closure. I don't know them exactly off the top of my head, but like I said, outside of an odd flora and fauna or special release that's well outside of normal drinking pricing for most, it's kind of like it's an interesting distillery, and I think it's fascinating that we're able to get such a rich expression from this distillery for Malt of the Month. To think that we've only had 14 casks ever pass panel and we're able to offer one up as a Malt of the Month, I think is very exciting. Actually, I've got a little bit of a tiny clip to show you if you want to see a little bit of a drone tour of the distillery, because again, they don't let you through the front door, but you can have a look at this one if anyone's interested. So if you're interested, I'm going to play it anyway. It's literally 60 seconds. So I'll just play this now. There's no sound, so I'm not going anywhere. Here we go. Isn't that stunning? Just like it's just that picturesque sort of overview of what's going on. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful part of Scotland, and the weather was fantastic that day. That was filmed actually by a drone by a friend of mine. So thank you very much for that one. Normal Scottish weather day. Yeah, sure, exactly. Oh wow, Nick just poured a dram of 80.10. Really delicious dram. Lots of cream pastries and floral notes. I loved 80.10. Nick, that was a fantastic drop. Now, whilst that video was playing, I actually just had a tiny little sip of this. I don't actually think it needs any water, even if it's right up there at 59.5. I am going to add just a drop for science, just a little bit into that. See how that sort of opens up a bit. Actually works with water as well. Whew. So I'll bring up the full screen now so you can see what we're looking at here. This is 80.14, a maple syrup mountain spring. Did you notice actually on that drone footage, it said that the character of this distillery is in part due to the purifiers. There's so many aspects of a distillery and still shape and size and runs and everything to do with the production side of it that shape the character of a spirit. And then it's our role as society to take that spirit, put it into great wood, mature it, and sometimes we might be buying mature stocks, we might be buying immature stocks, might be buying at new make level, and then bottling it when it's ready and passes panel for our members. That's what's most important, is serving up the best on offer to anyone. And that's what's really exciting. Joined a tad late. This is a November/December malt of the month. It is indeed, Liam. This is a preview of our November malt of the month. There's two malt of the months. I hold up 4 fingers. There's 2 malt of the months for November, December. I have them both in my office right now, but I'm going to keep that one a little bit of a secret until we show it. It's a little bit later. Maybe not tomorrow night, maybe the next night. I don't know. But I'm showing off 80.14, a maple syrup mountain spring here. An 8-year-old first fill bourbon hoggy in the spicy and sweet flavor profile. A very exciting whiskey, and it's going to be very well priced as the malt of the month. Malt of the month is what Andrew Durbridge, our cellar master, picks out each month for something special, something we can offer up at a really attractive price for members to enjoy. And I think he always picks something pretty damn good, if I'm being honest. Oh. I've added a bit of water and I get a cinnamon note. A bit of candied ginger, a bit of marmalade. Heaps of vanilla sponge cake. Vanilla sponge cake with candied ginger, gingerbread. The maple note is less prominent with the water, but it's still there. Vanilla ice cream, maple syrup on vanilla ice cream, vanilla pods. Sultana cake, like one of those panettone things, like one of those Italian panettones you get at Christmas. Actually, there you go. Is it Christmas or is it Easter? I don't know when people eat panettones. I don't even know if people eat panettones. You never actually see them being eaten. I think they're just something that you give someone. They're just like a big dry Italian cake that you give someone as a gift. Great flavor profile. Thank you, Lachlan. It's spicy and sweet. One of my favorites. I know I could say that about any flavor profile I know, but it's true. I personally tend towards oily and coastal, spicy and sweet lately. Your palate changes over time. For instance, I went a whole sort of 9-10 months about 2 years ago, really not caring about peated whiskey in general. And just your palate changes. You need to break from profile sometimes. You need to adjust and realign. Same with sherry casks for me. A long period of where, not that I didn't drink sherry whiskey, but where I just didn't preference it. It wasn't something I'd ever reach for. Panettone is the best. Okay, I'm going to have to take your word for that, only because it's, look, I know I've had panettone before. I think it's one of those things you have with a cup of coffee. It's just that it's very much a gifting cake, isn't it? Does anyone here, I don't know. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I think Matt is asking for panettone for his Christmas present this year. And hello, lightly peated color band. That's true. The other malt of the month for December is in the lightly peated flavor profile. That is true. And so we've got one spicy and sweet, one lightly peated for our 2 malt of the month. But that's only just the tip of the iceberg of what Outturn is about this year, what the festive Outturn is about this year, and that's really exciting. I hope you've learned something from tonight's stream, by the way. Just a little bit about this whiskey. Some of the tasting notes, some of my tasting notes. I've added a drop of water, like I said. I think it's coming along very nicely with water. It's the kind of whiskey that you'd be very happy to have on the Christmas table. And I know that sounds corny and almost like programmatic almost for the purpose of this, but I do mean that in that it's like I was talking about the spirit character from this distillery. It's a lightness to it. It's a light fluffiness to it, but there's so much character in the spirit. It's symphonic. It's delicious. It's lovely. But it's also the kind of whiskey that you could share around and enjoy without too much thought to it. The kind of whiskey that you don't need to tear it apart. I get that panettone note. I get the maple note, ice cream, vanilla pods, sultana cake. What else did I say? Anyway. Candied ginger. Sorry, candied gingerbread. There's a gingerbread note there. There's a bit of citrus, though. Bit of citrus right at the end. Kind of like, I don't know, like a lemon tart at the end there, a little bit of lime. It's very subtle, right at the end. A lovely sort of summer citrus note. Anyway, that's the beauty of whiskey. It's all very subjective. Our tasting notes are subjective. They're meant to be a guide for you to enjoy, as I talked about on a live stream a couple of weeks ago. And this is a lovely whiskey that is in our festive outturn, which is more than 3 weeks away. But I wanted you to get a bit of a quick preview of what's to come. Now, is there a mid-month offer offering coming? Or are you still working on it? Look, mid-month is a bit of a tricky one for us this month. We've had a chat about it at the team. There's still lots of offerings on the website. If you haven't checked it out, there's plenty of bottles of that 2.116 bees in a pod. That's fantastic. 30.112 Umami Heaven. That is like basically a soupy, sherried broth of a whiskey. It's ridiculous. And if you like that style of whiskey, which is around the corner from this distillery, but very, very different spirit quality. So yeah, we have a special email coming out mid this week with some things in it, but it's mid-month itself is a bit harder to execute this month. We want to make sure that we're saving up all the goodies that we can for outturn, especially when there's still so many good things from October outturn online, and they're still going each day, which is great. But if there's something that you're thinking about getting, I wouldn't hesitate. I kind of wanted to get the 37.129 very big house in the country for myself. I didn't, and now it's gone. That's the nature of the single cask. But you enjoy what you find along the way. And if there's something that's on the website now that you've been, maybe I should get that before November, then it's probably a good opportunity to. Looking forward to the Whiskey and Helmet Christmas Outturn preview. I think this is what was on the list. I don't know if there's any of that left, by the way, but a big shout out to Whiskey and Helmet, who have picked up a whole bunch of bottles from the festive outturn. So that's a bit of a preview of what's to come. You can see it's in that pack. I don't know if it's sold out, but it is incredible value, that one. You get to preview the outturn just like you would at Whiskey and Helmet, with myself and the team at Whiskey and Helmet co-hosting that one. Sorry, I'm the co-host on that one. They're the hosts. And then we're opening those boxes up. There's a craft beer and I think 7 Society 15 ml samples in that box. That's a cool way to taste a bit of what's to come in outturn, actually. Umami Heaven was amazing. Yes, you know what? Great bottling, Lachlan. And like I say, it's definitely on one of those whiskeys that's quite dark and quite brothy, and the umami note is there. Panettone should be toasted. Can have it with butter or honey and plenty of coffee at breakfast. Good idea. And yes, Umami Heaven is fantastic. Thank you, Ed N. Yeah, this is, like I said, there's a lot coming up, and we're really looking forward to sharing as much of the outturn as possible with you all. I'll leave it there. I meant to stop at 30 minutes, but I'm having too good a time. In the meantime, just the last little couple of announcements. I'll show you here what it looks like on the page. This is Malt of the Month, 80.14, Distillery 80, only the 14th cask to have ever passed panel in nearly 40 years of the club. So seeing one offered up, but also as Malt of the Month, is something rather special indeed. Here it is. You can learn a bit about the distillery there, some of the things I spoke about, a little bit more actually, and a bit more about the release there, and pricing will be confirmed later to the date, of course, but as it says, gives you all the details, as we love to do at the Society, all the nutty details there about the distillation, about the tasting notes, about when it was distilled and everything like that. If anyone's got a birthday on the 16th of January, that might be a good one for you. And I think that was, there you go. I'll show you the cover. We had to change the cover art a little bit from what we put on Facebook, but I still think it looks great. Actually, it looks a little bit more festive even. So that's our festive outturn coming on very soon. We've got some events, some outdoor events, which is what that image is. We've got some lovely outdoor events coming with the Society, so keep an eye on both our Facebook events and also on our website. Most of them are up on the website at the moment, actually, so have a look on the events page. It's just smws.com.au/events. And then mark your diaries. There's the date. Put it in the diary now so you don't forget it. Friday the 13th of November at 12 p.m. AEDT, and that's all I had to say for tonight. I really appreciate spending Monday night with you, talking a little bit about 80.14. That's the first preview, proper preview, if you like, of the festive outturn that is to come. In the meantime, I wish you all a fantastic week ahead. I'll be on a few times this week to talk about other things coming up. But in the meantime, have a great night, dram responsibly, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers. Bye for now.